Welcome. We're going to begin in just a few minutes. In fact, we're going to begin now. So, hi there. Welcome to the National Archives Know Your Records program. My name is Andrea Bassing-Matney, and we are broadcasting live from the National Archives building in Washington, D.C. So thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you here that are on site, hopefully you picked up the handouts. And I wanted to give you a few tips about how to participate in today's event. We will take your questions, but we ask that you hold them until the very end of the presentation. And when you're ready to ask a question, we ask that you stand up and go to either one of these microphones. So for those of you who are watching online, if you're on YouTube, you can also participate and ask questions. You'll just log in and type your questions to me, and I will ask our presenter the questions for you. You'll also find on this webpage two hot links. One will take you to the presentation slides, which are the handouts that I've given to our on-site audience. You will also find a link to live captioning. So that is if you are watching live. So let's continue on. For today's program, it is entitled, What's New at FamilySearch? And we welcome our presenter, Dee Young. And I have a nice biography for him. I'm going to move forward. And it's the same thing you see on the screen. John's current responsibility at FamilySearch International is to lead the team responsible for negotiations on all archives in North America. He also has personal responsibility to collaborate with U.S. federal agencies, including the National Archives. Additionally, he negotiates agreements with archives in Maryland, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, and the District of Columbia to digitize their genealogically significant records and make them available online to patrons to find their ancestors for free on FamilySearch.org. John's personal family history research is focused on the Netherlands, seeking to learn more about his family and their origins. He is also helping his wife with her family's genealogy and was able to find out more about several relatives who were Civil War soldiers and whose records and some pictures were found at the National Archives. And now for our presentation, What's New at FamilySearch? Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our presenter, Dee Young. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm delighted to be here. I do have to tell you, I was really excited with those pictures that I found of my wife's Civil War heroes that served. The only bad part, it was showing the leg wounds of this individual. So it was from the waist down. It's a little bit different picture than you might normally expect to find, but it was certainly an interesting find. Well, today I'm going to talk about FamilySearch, some past, present, and future. We're going to share some things that are new, that are upcoming, some things that have just recently launched that we're really excited about. The other thing I have to warn you about is that this is just a small portion of everything that we have available on the FamilySearch website. So it's basically a sample of the things that we have. FamilySearch is a free website. We've been gathering records since 1938, microfilming records all over the world, focusing a lot of those on the United States initially, and we have a lot of records. As you'll see in just a few minutes, you can use this free service by signing up and creating your own tree. It's very simple. Just follow the instructions that are provided on the website. So as you can see on the upper right-hand side, signing up for a free account, sign up in three easy steps. So just follow the steps and you'll be able to sign up and have your own account, which would then enable you to start building your own tree that you can add your family members to and build your genealogy. We have one tree. We don't have multiple trees for each individual that signs up. And so eventually you'll find out that you're going to be connected to other people. So this becomes a very large collaborative process as you seek to find your ancestors and who you're related to. Here are some of the facts about FamilySearch. We have huge collections. Since we've been gathering so many records over the years, over 5 billion searchable names in historical records, over 1 billion images that are online. As I said, we started microfilming in 1938, and in 1999, we started to convert these microfilms into digital images. We thought at that time it would take about 120 years to do the digitization, and in fact, we're probably going to be finished in the next 4 or 5 years, so a lot quicker than we initially expected. Reason for that is there have been a lot of just additional technological breakthroughs that have happened over the years that's made this possible. So we're delighted with the great progress that's being made there. Additionally, you can see we have over 500 million names that are indexed in the last 3 years, over 2,000 collections. We have almost 300,000 books that we have digitized in the last couple of years. We have a large library in Salt Lake City that has many, many books, and we've taken most all of those books and digitized those. So rather than having to travel all the way to Salt Lake and look at the books, you can look at them online. Many of those books contain family histories. They may be heritage books, some historical books of regions and territories. So the types of information that's necessary to help you successfully find your family. We have over 4,000 family history centers, and these are basically branch libraries where people can come to these locations and they can order a microfilm if they still exist and if they haven't been scanned yet. And those microfilms will be sent to those locations so that you can look at them locally. As you can see, there are a number of visits per day, over almost 300,000 visits to our website with almost 5 million pages viewed per day. So it's a pretty active website. Lots of people are interested in family history. And we've got a number of photos, and we'll talk about photos and stories a little bit later in the presentation. But as people, we've made it possible for them to add pictures and stories and attach those to their family members so that it's more than just names, dates, and places. It actually becomes a place that you can kind of flesh out the individuals in your family and provide a little more context and background to their lives. This last year, we took about 150 million pictures around the world with over 300 camera teams. In the United States, it was about 25 million pictures, of which 3 million were pictures in the National Archives. We're working in several locations throughout the United States, currently working on naturalization records and also the Homestead Act records that are here in Washington, D.C. Each of these is made freely available. Eventually, we will index those as well so that they're more easily searchable. It takes a little bit longer to get the indexing done. That's quite an effort. So today we're going to talk about a number of things. We're going to talk about the personalized homepage, mobile apps, memories, the family discovery centers, which is a way that we're trying to engage new users and new people who are people that are new to family history and trying to help them to understand the importance and how to connect. We'll talk about contextual help, which is a new aspect of how we're helping people do searching. Searching itself, messaging, this entire collaborative process to help people find their families, indexing, and then also support for multiple languages. As I mentioned, we're a global organization. We're not just focused in the US, and so as a result, we have a number of different languages that we're publishing in today, and we're continuing to add to those languages. And we have gathered records from all over the world. We'll also talk about our cooperation with commercial partners to help make this happen. As I noted, we have a lot of records that we've been gathering. We estimate that the 2.5 million rolls of microfilm that we're creating digital images of will take about 300 years to index, which is an awful long time. I won't be here at the end of that. However, because we're anxious to make these things available quicker, we're working with these commercial partners to make that possible. And so, for example, in the last year, we had a partnership that we created. We had a number of Mexican records that we had gathered in the 1950s, civil registration, births, marriages, and deaths, that we worked with Ancestry.com, for them to index and then make available on their website initially. And then eventually those will be made available for free on our website. So commercial partners are a really important part of the work that we do. And then we'll talk a little bit about the help that we provide. First, I want to talk about our personalized homepage. This is how our homepage looked in 2011. And it's kind of boring, not a whole lot going on. It tried to get people engaged in family history. We didn't feel that good about it. And so we changed it to this format, which talked a little bit about remembering your ancestors. We used some icons to kind of engage people and help them to kind of see what things that they could do on the FamilySearch website and how they could engage and how they could make connections. We then changed it again and started to talk about, gave them some messaging around things that were happening that we were doing. So you can see here on the bottom left-hand side, we had a little project, this is about a month ago. In one weekend, we were able to index over 10 million records, which was huge. It's a big event, had a lot of people that were engaged in it that were really excited to participate. So we did that, and we had this news feed that we would provide to people on their website. Well, this is the latest version, and this is the personalized homepage. All family history is local. It is your personal family history. It is all about you, your family, where they come from, their background, where they might have been, where they might have gone, and it's their stories. And so because of all of the indexing that's been done, it's made it possible for us to make it easier for people to connect with their ancestors, because a particular record that has been indexed with a name or two can be found in the tree, and we now have what are called record hints, and we'll speak to that in a minute. And what that does is for a name, it'll show a little hint that says, hey, we have a record here that might have your person on this place, on this record. Why don't you check it out? And so you go to that, and let's say it's a 1940 census record, and your person is one name, and you didn't know the parents, you may not have known the siblings. Lo and behold, the entire 1940 census page is indexed, and here are the siblings, and here are the parents. So it's a way to find people. So in this personalized homepage, there are a number of different elements here that engage people to help them in their journey to find ancestors. You can see there's different parts here. We're going to go through each of these. One is an activity feed on memories, memories and stories. This particular photograph has a number of people on it, and as you can see, you can view your relationship to each of the people on the tree. So just by clicking the individual, and after having tagged their names, you can then look at what is your relationship to a particular individual there. That's a new element. Oftentimes people that are other people who you may be related to who you may not know may have put a picture up and put names, attached the names to those pictures, and now you find out, hey, this is somebody I didn't even know about, and this view of the relationship helps you understand exactly how you're connected to those individuals. So it's kind of a fun thing. Another element is recommended tasks. So finding a record hint, helping people understand, here's an opportunity to go find more information about that individual. Or looking at recent ancestors you may have viewed. Now, there are a couple things that happen when people do family history. Either you're doing it every day and you're finding so many people and you're putting them in the tree, but you may have forgotten because of the volume of people you've put in. So, okay, where was I last? This is a good way to figure out where I was most recently. Or it may be a while since you've done family history and added names to the tree. This, again, is a good tool to help you start back up where you left off. So it's a nice opportunity to be able to be more effective in your work. We've created a to-do list so that you can kind of track the things that you're interested in finding. So here's a couple of items, for example, finding the spouse and death information for Edgar L. Golden, or finishing an analysis on the family of Rusilla Watkins. So kind of the different things that you may be interested in keeping yourself on task in the work that you're doing. Recently, I had a session at our local church where they asked me to come teach about family history and to have the youth involved. And so I asked them all to bring their computers so that we could show them how they could find their family. Half of them, the computers they brought, were about this big. they were using their cell phones. The rest of them were using tablets. And so we're learning very quickly that it isn't just in the US, but there are parts of the world where people don't have computers, but they have cell phones. We're building our apps and building our systems to fit the cell phone model. So creating a mobile phone size process to get onto FamilySearch.org and be able to do research and be able to find people and add them. This gives you a couple of shots of the same types of things we were looking at earlier on the normal screenshots of a computer, only in mobile phone size. We also have apps. You can see here the pictures. They get awful small. I'm getting to the point where I need to have some magnifying glasses to see these pictures clearly, but there are people that can, and it's a helpful tool. You can zoom in on them. We're just getting started. As you can see, the numbers are rather low compared to our everyday numbers on our website, but we're seeing a continual increase in the number of people that are working off of mobile phones to try to do family history. And it has the same sorts of things that we have on the regular application. One of those is to search records. So here's an example. Clicking on the Search Records tab of this particular individual takes that person's information, puts it in our normal search engine, and then brings up a number of results that may be that individual's information. Now, there may be more Margaret Jarvises than the one you're looking for. In this case, you can see here there's one that's outlined in green that is apparently the one that we wanted to find, but they have different dates in different places. There's usually a number of, at the top of the page you would see how many total you find, and if it's John Smith it may be 500,000 individuals, a little bit difficult. Margaret Jarvis probably has fewer names, and so you don't have to wade through as many. On the left-hand side of the page is a way to filter the search, so you can reduce the number of names that you're coming up with to try to find the individual that you're interested in. And then you can click on the little document that's got little lines on it. That will show you what was indexed. And if there's an image for that particular indexed item, then it will show a camera on the right-hand side, and then you can click on the camera to see the actual image. Another thing that we're going to do with the mobile phone version is create little tasks. So we have some color-coded tasks on the right-hand side that will tell you the kinds of things that can be done for that particular individual that you're looking at. For example, the little blue marker that you saw means that there are record hints for that individual, and so that means that there are records that have been found and indexed that has information about that individual on it. Here's an example from the 1940 census. So John P. Hoodin Pyle was the son, and in this case his parents and his siblings also show up on the same record. So if you don't have that information, that then allows you to add that to the tree. You can review it. If it's actually somebody that you think it is, it will automatically attach that record to that individual in the tree, and it will attach it for each of the other people that are on that particular record to the tree as well. So it becomes one whole collection for that family. On the mobile app, we're taking advantage of the technology that phones have, and that is that you can talk into a phone, you can record information, and so we're now making it possible for people to not only preserve pictures and stories, but also audio messages on our website attached to the individuals that you find that are your ancestors. I have a friend who lives just down the street from me, and he recently ran into a recording of his mother that she had left a message on the phone of his sister saying that she loved them and their family and make sure you take care of yourselves and those types of things. Just a real touching message that she had left. And his mother has passed away, and he thought, wow, this is really cool. I've got my mom saying these really wonderful things to her family. I think I'll just take and upload this and attach it to her, which he did. And so now, in perpetuity, his children, grandchildren, and others will be able to go to, when they find her, they'll see that there's this little message that's an audio message. We'll be able to listen to that. So it becomes a very personal thing. We're beyond names, dates, and places. We're talking about individuals. I talked a little bit about memories. In 2013, We actually released the memory app, and we have had over 14 million artifacts added to the tree, 4 million of them in 2015. So this continues to grow faster as people see the benefit of being able to connect with their family members. This is a picture of the gallery and what it looks like. And you can see there are a number of different pictures here. Each of the pictures shows the family photo. It's also got a description of the photo, who might be in the picture. And people can add that. They can also rotate them. They can create little albums for individual families. So there are a lot of different ways to work with the photos and stories. They can move it to the archive. You can see on the left-hand side there's a drop-down menu. It shows you how to download. If the photos are sideways, you can rotate them left or right to get them to the right direction. Notice there's a car here on the far right, and the bottom, it's driving uphill. Most cars don't go that direction. They typically go horizontally. So probably want to turn that picture, make it easier to see. So this type of engagement is an interesting collaborative engagement, because I have a number of friends who have got many family members that are busy working on their tree, constantly adding pictures, and I'll talk to them and say, well, yeah, I just saw this picture of my grandpa I've never seen before. And that happens a lot. And so as people uncover pictures in the attic or in the closets and start scanning those and attaching them to their family members, this just creates an opportunity for just more sharing amongst family members. The gallery also works on the mobile phone, and so we have these same pictures, although a little bit smaller, will also be available on the mobile phone app and make it possible for people to go ahead and look at their families that way. And it's available in Android or iOS, so multiple ways of doing that. You can see in the middle there is the My Stories part. So for each individual, you can create a story. You can take a Word document and just write a story about your ancestor and just upload it and attach it to the individual. Even tell your own story, or in this case they started, as you can see under Grant Allen Edwards, he says, my dad told this story. And so it becomes, again, a very personal opportunity to share your family's information. In the future, we'll also have a gallery list view. This is in beta right now, and so that's a way to make it easier to add event dates and locations. So you can see in this case, there are a number of pictures that were taken with some descriptions, but no event date and location. So again, another way to make that information more clear and to document exactly where things happen. One of the things that we're very keen on, particularly with our website, is to make sure that the records that are in there are correct and the information is correct. Because we have one tree, it's sort of kind of like a Wikipedia experience. You may recall when Wikipedia first came out, there was a large encyclopedia company that said that Wikipedia isn't going to go anywhere. Well, that particular company is really not as strong as it was back in those days, and yet Wikipedia has become the fountain of all knowledge, in a sense. There's a lot of information on Wikipedia that's available today. And so, and it's become that way because everyone has been able to add information and check information and make sure it's correct, and they add confirmation or documentation to the individual items that are put in there. We have the same philosophy with our FamilySearch tree. So while information may be incorrect initially, others can go in and they can correct that. They can add additional information. They can take records and attach them to the people that are in the tree to prove that the information that they have put in is actually correct. So our entire process is built around trying to make sure that we can justify the conclusions that have been made by family history researchers as they've added information into the tree. Here's an example of adding a marriage license as an event. This is not something that was indexed, and so it was found in our typical search process in browsing images, and that image was then attached to the individual so that you could have that in the tree. We have a unique situation in family history. There are a lot of people that are engaged in family history. In the past, that's been primarily senior people who are concerned about their legacy or wondering about where they may have come from. And so what we're trying to do is to get younger people involved earlier, or to assist people who want to get started but don't know exactly how to do it. So we've created a concept called a Family Discovery Center. And we've been testing that, and we're about to expand it significantly. And the idea is it's kind of a museum of me. It tells you about yourself and how you fit within history and how you might fit within your family. And so a Discovery Center has a number of different experiences that are built into it. The way it works is that a person is given an iPad, and they go through a number of different experiences. They connect that iPad in each of those locations, and as they go through that experience, their answers are recorded on the iPad. When they're done with all of that, it then provides an entire record of the whole experience that you go through. So, for example, the first item is Discover My Story. You may have seen birthday cards that have what happened on this date on your birthday or in this year. Well, that's essentially what this is. It gives you kind of the items that happened, the historical things, maybe who won the World Series, who won the Super Bowl, or who won the war. Whatever it happens to be, those are the kinds of things that happened on your birth year. Or exploring my story. So this is more one that talks about where you came from. For example, I was born in Amsterdam, and when the person who showed me this the first time said, well, let's put your information there, see what happens. And it puts little pins in the locations where you were born, where your parents were born, your grandparents were born. And pretty soon all these pins were dropping, all of them in Amsterdam, because my family was living in Amsterdam for about 400 years. So we have lots of them. He said, I've never seen that before. However, most of the time, you'll see someone that may have been born in Boston, and prior to that, their parents came from England, and then prior to that, they may have been in Scotland or Wales, or maybe they came from Norway or Denmark. And so you see, as their ancestors go back, as they branch out, all the different places that people came from to come together and make that individual. And so it becomes a very connected thing. We start realizing we're more than just ourselves. We actually are part of the rest of the world. There's another one in there about recording my story. It's a recording booth, and you go in. There's a number of questions that have been put together in a questionnaire that are very searching, that get to the core of who you are and where you come from, and ask you specific personal family stories. And so you share those, and it becomes a very personal event. You can bring your parents in, or your grandparents, or any other relatives, and interview them and have them be part of this event. That then also becomes recorded. There's another module that's called Experience My Story. And this is kind of a time machine. So it takes you through a particular location and how that may have changed over time. So your family may have been in a log cabin in Illinois. And then how did that log cabin change? And what happened when electricity was introduced, and other technological improvements. So the potbelly stove becomes a gas stove, becomes an electric range, becomes a microwave oven. And so you'll see those changes over time as part of that time machine. Picturing your story. So taking your picture and then placing maybe your face inside of a picture that represents your historical background or heritage. There's also some other pictures you can take with background shots that are kind of pretty, that people get engaged in, get excited about. There's a Replace My Face. And those are kind of fun for kids to get involved in. They can put themselves in the face of a cowboy or something like that, and they get a kick out of that. The idea is to keep people engaged and help them understand the importance of where they fit in society. There's another element called Relative Finder. It gives you an opportunity to see who else you might be connected to that may have been famous. My son did this looking through his ancestors and found out that that my wife is actually related to Philo T. Farnsworth, who was the inventor of the television set. So kind of a weird connection, and she never knew that that existed, but that's one of her cousins. So you'll get that kind of an experience. Now that's going to be, actually we're building it right now in the Family History Library in Salt Lake City. They've taken the entire first floor where we had about 100 computers, taken all the computers out, and they're creating this big event, this discovery station. So invite you to Salt Lake and come check that out sometime. We're also creating a mobile version of this that will make it easier to move this around to different locations. It has a similar, although not as in-depth, but the same kind of idea. It helps connect people to their ancestors with the same types of stories and background information. Some other things we're doing with the tree on our Family Search website is to help create different ways of looking at someone's tree. We call this a fan chart. So it starts with an individual in the middle down at the bottom. It shows their parents, their grandparents, great-grandparents, and so on. And you can see on this particular example where it shows what time period that they were born in. So born in the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, and so on. Or if there's a blank, it'd be missing from the tree. In this case, there's no blanks. Or what country they may have come from. So again, you can see localities. So this, again, is a beta version. I know some of you with very sharp eyes will see, wait a minute, Louisiana is not a country. And obviously it's not, but they're working on they've had some placeholders there. So Louisiana, maybe before the Louisiana Purchase, maybe thought of themselves as a country, but anyway, today it's not. So that will be a way for people to kind of look and say, okay, look, where did my people come from? In what places? Where do I need to look further? Where can I go to find more information? You can click on an individual box and you'll click on that individual and be able to look at their personal information. Here, Elizabeth Mainwaring was born in Liverpool in England. And so by clicking on her name or on the person button at the bottom, it will take you to her personal information that you can then add relatives or add other information to her. So it's all interconnected with the entire tree. It's another view, and it's a way to make it more helpful. We're introducing a concept called Contextual Help. Oftentimes people get into the tree and they may wonder, okay, what do I do next? Or how do I do this? And so the light bulb icon on the bottom right-hand side, when you click on that, you'll be able to see different things that you might be able to gather some more information to give you some coaching on how to do research. So in this case, you can choose Navigating Descendancy View, which is the view that we're looking at right here. You could look at record hints, which the little blue box is there, look at research suggestions, or data problems that you might have. We're not going to go through all of these, but for example, for research suggestions, and when you click on that, then all of a sudden you get a learning guide here on the kinds of things that you might want to research and how you do that. And so it'll tell you how that works and how to use it. So it's within context of the research you're doing, helping you be more effective in the work that you're doing. We're also working on search and hinting. I've mentioned hinting a couple of times, and the little blue hints that come. Those hints that show up on names in your tree are about 98% accurate. That's a pretty high accuracy rate. We've got very sophisticated systems that are put together to help to make sure that that's the case. And people are adding about 340,000 hints to the tree every single day. So there's a lot of folks that are identifying the hints, reviewing them, ensuring that they are actually their family members to see how they fit. Another way to, and this goes back to the point of making sure that the records or the conclusions that have been drawn are correct, is by attaching images to the tree. And in this case, we're talking about unindexed images. So these are not hints that have come from records that have been indexed, but this is an image that has not been indexed that you have identified and found that can be added to the tree to prove a particular fact. that you've identified. So in this case, this is a marriage certificate of Robert Robles to Aurora Ibarra and Robert Robles, excuse me. And so it allows you to then show a citation and add a source box so you can actually identify exactly the name, dates, and places, tell them that that matches and why it matches, how it fits to prove the information that you're trying to prove, and it will attach it to that individual. You can also add additional people to that particular document, so each of them will also be connected to that document in the tree. As I mentioned earlier, this is a collaborative effort, and so as we share pictures, as we share stories, also as we share the work we're doing to try to find people in the tree, the genealogies, this is an opportunity often to try to find out more information. So what we've done is we've made it easier to contact those people who've submitted. So if you, when you sign up for the tree and you put your email address there and you make it possible for people to contact you, then when someone finds something and would like to contact you about why your conclusion was the way it was, or would like to maybe offer some additional information, they can do that very easily because your email's there. So just click on the email and then send emails and contact that individual. So it's a very simple way to work collaboratively to help build the tree. Recently, we just added some additional genealogy information to our genealogy section. This is separate from our normal tree. We have, over time, accepted genealogies that have been prepared that were according to a certain standard and have those set separately. People use those as guides to help them find family members. Maybe there's work that had already been done on a particular family line in the past, and so it's a lot easier to look at something that someone else has done, use that as a guide to check and find other information about family members in those areas. Or either to make it simpler to add members of those families to your tree. We've worked with the Guild of One Name Studies recently and added their organization as part of those genealogies. This is a group who have identified names that they're interested in, and they then will research that particular name. Each individual owns a name, and so they find out a lot of information about them. So it's a great resource to use if you have one of those names. We also have worked extensively to develop oral genealogies. We have people going throughout the world to capture oral genealogies, speak with people who are the history people in the different areas where they're at, to gather information about families and individuals. And we've got those taped, and we have those this growing collection and are now making it available here. So it's another way to find out more about family. So what are some things that we're working on in the future? Well, hinting is a real keen thing, so we will make faster hints. We're going to hint from user trees, so more than just record types. We will grow on our international search and continue to improve the entire hinting function. We're also working on Federated Search, which is something that would have an index on our tree and possibly point to images that may be in another location at a particular archives website. So it's a connecting way of taking advantage of work that had already been done in other places and not having to redo work that's been completed. And an improved source linker experience. So again, making it easier to link the sources to prove the conclusions that have been made or that you make on the tree. This is a view of the tree, and one of the other items that we've identified is that as people make changes, because we have this Wikipedia experience and it's possible for people to make changes that you may not want to have them make, we also make it possible for you to track any changes or to receive a message whenever any changes have been made to particular people that you've added to the tree. So adding a little flag to an individual, if a change is made, you'll receive an email that says, oh, this change was made, and you can contact that individual then and say, you know, how and why did you make the change and what's going on here? And so in this case, it says 2 users of Family Tree are watching this person. If you change this information, those users will be notified. So it's going to let you know people are watching and want to make sure that the information you're going to be entering is correct. There's also been questions that we've received about deleting people. So oftentimes people will enter a name into the tree, and then it's an individual that actually existed in time and space but may not be part of that family. Because they existed in time and space, we don't believe they should be deleted, but they can be disconnected from that particular family. And we call it, it's a little leaf out there of the whole tree. It's just kind of out there drifting away. At some point, if somebody finds they're doing their family history and they're adding names to the tree, and they add that particular name, then they're going to find that individual already in the tree and be able to merge and attach them to their family. So they're not lost entirely, just until somebody else does the research and catches up with them. So there's a way of doing that. We also have a process to merge duplicate records. So there are times when people have added from different locations in time, may have added the same person in. Maybe the spelling was slightly different, or a date was slightly off. Maybe they started with an about date, they didn't have an exact date. So all of that information is then resolved when the duplicates are merged. If there is a person that doesn't exist that was put into the tree, there is a process of resolving that and working through the FamilySearch support process to go ahead and delete that individual. So there's a number of different ways to handle that. There's a number of different ways to add family members. This is an example of adding it in the Descendancy view. You can add spouse and children and just click on the plus sign. Each of these blue marks there are identifiers. You can add individuals and put them in. So there's a lot of ways to deal with the tree. We're working on improving our scaling and system capacity for the future. We just recently made an upgrade to our entire system. We had some times a day or during the week when it was a little bit slower because so many people were actually putting information into the tree. As you can imagine, you have hundreds of thousands of images and stories and names that are added as frequently as they are. It starts to create a big burden. And so we are continually increasing the capacity of the system to make it so that it will continue to run and run the way that you want it to run. Also, the ability to share living people information. So obviously there are constraints there with respect to privacy laws, and we respect all those, and those information that are added will be added with all of those concerns in mind, and sources that relate to living people, so that other item that we're looking at in the future. I mentioned a little bit about contacting people in a collaborative way so that they can also work together with you on your tree. There's another way to do that. We will make it possible to contact someone, and this may be somebody that doesn't really want to have their email address made public, and so this is through the FamilySearch system. And so in this case, there's a June F. Call who does not have an email address, but you can send her a message anyway. And so it goes to June F. Call, write the subject, put in the information that you're interested in, and finding out, and then being able to communicate back and forth to get your answer. And those messages show up in the upper right-hand side on the home page, on your personal home page. And you'll be able to see those messages as you receive them and kind of go through them over time. These are just some samples here. I'm not sure that they are really the comments. Notice the one on the bottom here, "Hey bud, what are you doing with our common ancestor?" So kind of a challenge there, but you'll want to make sure that the messages you send are appropriate and get to the facts of the matter. But this is a way to communicate. You know, the top message: do you have a copy of Mary's death certificate? Apparently somebody put in a death date and wants to have some confirmation of it. So it's a way to communicate, again, in this fashion. We'll have different ways that the messages will be displayed so that it's easier for you to understand what's going on. We'll be working on integrating those messages with an address book, so it's easier to deal with and allow people to opt in to share more publicly. And also adding just new ways to form communities and create collaboration and be able to work together. So, and again, you're hearing this word collaboration a lot. We're finding this isn't the work of just one person. It's one tree. It's the work of everyone working together to make sure that the right information and that it's correct. One of the most powerful tools that everybody is excited about is indexing. That makes it possible to be able to find people without having to go through page after page after page of a record series or a book, microfilm. That's the beauty of today's computers, being able to quickly find somebody. We have been indexing for quite some time now. We've got over 1.34 billion names that have been completed. Last year, 68 million. Our current rate is about 1 million names a day, more than 1 million names a day. So there's a lot of indexing that's being done. We have a lot of people who are donating their own time, effort, and energy to make that happen. You can see here total contributors in 2015, over 200,000 people were involved in indexing. And so our process for indexing is that we have actually 3 people that look at any given record. We have what we call an A key and a B key, so 2 people independently without knowing each other or knowing anything about each other. They look at a record, they index it. If the computer looks at those results and they're the same, then it accepts that result. If they're different, then it goes to a third person called an arbitrator. That person then looks at how person key A indexed the record, how person key B indexed the record, and makes a determination themselves what's correct or incorrect and what the correct indexed information should be. And that's what ends up. Now, it's possible that that could also be an error. Sometimes handwriting is very hard to distinguish exactly what the information is that's on a particular record. And there are tools to be able to fix that. We're working in our system to be able to develop those tools so that it could be user, as someone looks at those records later on, they could submit what they think the correct information is. That's something that's we're working on for the future. But again, indexing is very, very important and something that we continue to work on. Our current indexing tool is one that required downloading a piece of software onto a computer. Some people are a little hesitant to do that. And so we've now changed our indexing tool and trying to make it better. This was our tool before. And the experience, you can see the record is at the top of the page. At the bottom, it shows you the kind of things you would type in to index. The new indexing home is actually based on the cloud. It's in the cloud. Your home page, when you're doing indexing, will show you the batches that you're working on and also any messages that we may be sending out regarding the particular batch or regarding maybe an upcoming indexing project. Maybe there's something exciting that we're trying to do over a 72-hour period. Whatever that may be, those messages will show up there. And then it shows you, this is an example of what the new indexing experience is. So it's a little bit easier to look across an image and across the columns to see how you fill those out and how you index those records. We're also working very hard on automated indexing. So using some sort of character recognition software. This shows you some of the computer type work that goes on in doing that, and creating an error reporting process for those computerized images. And so it's another way of doing a feedback loop to make sure that the indexes are correct. We're also working on indexing on the fly. We call it indexing on the fly. This is a way of just capturing a small piece of information, sending it to a cell phone, and you can sit there and you could index anytime you'd like. Just send that back in. They could be little snippets, and each of those snippets gathered together become the record. I mentioned earlier multiple languages. Oftentimes when people start, they don't know quite where to start or how to start. And so we've created a little booklet called My Family. It's under the it's on the main page under FamilySearch, under the family tree. It's the last drop down. And you can see here a number of different languages that it's in, over 42. This happens to not be English, and it's pretty hard for me to read. I can't exactly see what this is, but I know that when you start adding information in this, you can put in your name, your family, your parents. You go back 4 generations, so it's pictures and stories and the siblings of the people that are involved in this. You can create this account, you can have this information in there, and it will give you a starting point for the tree that you're wanting to add into the FamilySearch tree. With regard to commercial partners, they've added a lot, made it a lot easier for us to be able to take the records that we've got and make them more available to more people in more places. And so we'll continue to work with them to do that as it speeds up the ability to make these records available. We also are working with a number of developers of different apps that are useful tools in doing family history work. So we have currently in our app gallery on our website over 123 different apps. They could be apps related to major genealogical websites, such as you can see here, Ancestry or MyHeritage or Find My Past, or they can be others like Pozilla or Hope Chest or Moose Roots, Find a Record, and there are more of those, or Family Tree software. Different software companies who've worked with us to make sure that we had the right tools to communicate back and forth between their systems and our system, and have family tree or support of their products that they have. Finally, we've got also a way to get help. I mean, all of this that I've shown you is just a piece of the entire FamilySearch website. On the upper right-hand side, you can see it says click. You can click here to get help. There's a drop-down that shows up. There is another drop-down that says Help Center. When you click on the Help Center, it gives you a number of different options. One of those is a learning center. And you can go through and identify the things that you may not know enough about and try to learn more about those. One of those, under the Learning Center, there's a number of courses that you can take on reading different languages. You can learn how to read old handwriting. There are courses to teach you how to do that. So there are short genealogy snippets, genealogy in 5 minutes, teaching you how to start your research and what type of research you should do, the kinds of information that you may want to get. As you can see here in the middle, there's a little box there. It says Roots Tech 2016. Every year for the past 5 years, we've had a big event in Salt Lake called Roots Tech. This is kind of a commercial for Roots Tech. We'll do it again next February. We had over 25,000 people who were active in doing genealogical research at Roots Tech in last February, and we'll have more than that in Salt Lake this next year. There are just a lot of great classes that are taught on how to do family history research. A lot of these companies that are involved in doing family history are also there as part of a convention type setup, and they'll teach you about their tools and their processes and their systems. And there's great talks that are given by people who are engaged in family and are engaged in stories. So it's very interesting. It's worth checking out online. I want to thank you for your attendance and for your just apt attendance and being here. We are excited about working in this family history space. We think family is important. Understanding who you are and where you come from makes a big difference in your life. And we'd like to encourage you, if you can, to come to Roots Tech this next year. Certainly go on to FamilySearch, set up your own account, create your own tree, start adding names. Pretty soon you'll start finding other people that have already been there, and you'll be connecting with others and collaborating with them. So thank you very much for your attention.
John, thank you very much. Wow. I'm overwhelmed with and taken with how well thought out everything is on there. I did have a question. It's a personal question before other FamilySearch members come up and ask questions. We do a family reunion every year, and I didn't know about the mobile app, so I was wondering about the functionality of the mobile app. I'd like to maybe take photographs and do a recording while I'm at the reunion. Can I upload it if I have Wi-Fi?
Absolutely. In fact, that's a great idea at a family reunion to go around and record maybe the oldest people that are there, get some stories from them, and upload those to the FamilySearch website, to your tree. You'll want to have created a tree with their names in it, and then you can attach that to them. You can do the same thing with pictures. So you can take the pictures with your phone and go ahead and upload those as well. It's a great use of the phone.
That's fantastic. Does anybody have questions that are here on site? If you can make your way to a microphone, and if you don't feel comfortable doing that, perhaps John can repeat the question so our on-site audience can hear you.
Yeah, question. Is there any way to tie DNA information like you would find from 23andMe or Ancestry.com?
That's a good question. So the question is there any way to tie DNA information as you'd find on 23andMe or Ancestry or some other DNA site or company? We have not done anything with DNA to date. We're looking at how we can connect with that. We understand that's a huge area of genealogical interest as people are trying to figure out who they are and where they come from. But you can certainly take your results and you can take those and put them on a Word document or have some sort of a document. You can take a picture of that and you can attach that to the tree. So there is a way to take the information you've received and upload it and make it part of your genealogical background. So yeah, the answer is yes, but there's a lot more to come on DNA. I'm sure there is. Good question, thank you. Any other questions? Yes?
While I'm playing with our internet connection, it looks like my Wi-Fi has gone out. I'm wondering if there's anybody else who would like to take this opportunity while John is here with us to ask a question. Is there anything further you'd like to say?
I think we have a question in the
Very
back
good,
there.
okay.
Yep.
You mentioned missing people. My great-grandfather was such a person, and I'm just wondering how you connect those links to find missing people.
That's a really good question. So the question is, how do you're missing your great-grandfather, and how do you find him? I think that's tough. Depends on where he came from and whether there were records that were kept at the time. We have done a pretty good job of gathering records from most places, but there are still holes. I mean, there are places where we don't have records yet, which is why that's my job, is to go out and negotiate to get the opportunity to create images of records in places where we haven't been yet. And we can talk offline. I mean, the research for an individual is an individual thing, but using if it's in the United States, using the records that are in the National Archives are really helpful as a tool to get started. The censuses are tremendous. They're a great way to do that. Military records that are here, or immigration naturalization records that are here, even homestead records. We're working on digitizing homestead records. So there are a number of different record collections at the National Archives that we've been able to digitize over time that are available for you to do that research. But all of those require you to kind of figure out exactly where you may want to look and try to zoom in on that person. It's always a challenge, particularly if you got a brick wall that you're trying to deal with. But, the other part, given that there are more than 1 million names being indexed every single day, we tell people, look, if you can't find them today, look tomorrow. It's possible that they may show up. So that's if a record's been taken and a name has been found. Yeah. Another question.
Yes, hi, I'm sorry I was late. You may have already addressed this. Do you have information or records that I would not find on Ancestry.com? I was wondering, do I need to look at FamilySearch also?
Yeah, that's a good question, whether we have information or records that are not on Ancestry. The answer is yes. There are collections that we have that they don't have. There are some collections that they have that we don't have. So both websites are helpful. If you go to one, I don't know where you live, but if you go to one of our family history libraries, there's a free Ancestry account there so that you can log in and look at the Ancestry website without having to pay. Our website is free from home, so you don't have to worry about that. So there are different ways to do that, but we certainly have lots of records that they don't have. We've been doing this a lot longer than Ancestry has, and so they're very good. They've got a tremendous process. They've got a great website and good tools, but they don't have the same records that we have. We do work with them collaboratively. As I mentioned, the Mexican records that we were able to that we actually microfilmed back in the 1950s. We worked with them to digitize and to index those. We're currently working with them on a naturalization project in the United States, and that is to both digitize and index these naturalization records, where they do some and we do others, and we create one big completed collection when we're all done with it. Yeah, but you want to use both websites. In fact, if you have English ancestry, you'll also want to use Find My Past, because they're large. They've got a large collection in the UK, and MyHeritage is the other large genealogical website who've got a lot of European records. So unfortunately, it's in multiple places that you need to look. Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you. Yes?
Yes, how is FamilySearch actually funded?
So the question is, how is FamilySearch funded? We're funded primarily through the free will gifts and offerings of members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We also have people who donate money through philanthropic ways. They kind of want to pay it forward. So they're saying, hey, I think this is an important aspect of helping our society be better as people understand who they are. They tend to teenagers particularly, there's been some work done on this, that tend to be less delinquent if they know their background and where they came from, the tough situations that their families went through, and how they can also overcome their own tough situations. So there's a very close connection there between that. So there are people that say, I want to move this forward. I want to continue to see this made possible. So on our website, there's actually a place where it says volunteer. When you click on the volunteer tab, then there's another tab that's there that says make a donation. So if people wanted to, that's the place that they could do that. So that's where the funding comes from. Thank you. Good question. Yes.
That was a good question. I also wanted to add, following to the previous question about using Ancestry.com, that although the questioner said she has an account, that you can access that digitization partner at the National Archives for free.
That's right.
So you can go to any one of our facilities across the nation. You can't save, but you can access that website as well at the National Archives. Do we have any more questions from our on-site audience? Well, thank you very much for attending. Unfortunately, I was not able to bring my Wi-Fi back up, so thank you very much, John. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's presentation. And I'd like to add that the presentation video will remain online, as well as the handout of the presentation slides, so you can watch it as many times as you like. And on behalf of the National Archives and our presenter, thank you so much for attending.
Thank you.